if you're getting ready to retire, finally, you've probably started to look into Social Security. And it used to be that Social Security would start at age 65. That's when they would start sending us a check for our Social Security benefit. Well, now you might know that's changed. So things are different now, and Social Security has what's called full retirement age. So what is that? Well, we're going to go over it right now. I've got a special guest. We're going to tell you exactly what you need to know. Stay tuned.
Medicare on video, Medicare on video.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about full retirement age, what Social Security considers your full retirement age. And I have a special guest. I have Chris Hammond, and he's a certified retirement income professional. So he's great at helping people figure out all their retirement going or their income going into retirement. And he has a website called Retirement Planning Made Easy. So .com. And I'll have that information below the video. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll have the links down below. So make sure you visit that. And we're going to let Chris tell us about full retirement age. So Chris, all on to you.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. I really appreciate you inviting me out here to discuss this. And this is kind of one of the pillars of most people's retirement is Social Security. And it can get really complex. So, the goal of what we're going to do today is we're going to just focus on, narrow this down, focus on stuff that's real easy to understand, show some good charts as we go along to help you, the viewer, understand better about what you need to know when you're claiming your Social Security benefits.
That sounds like exactly what we're looking for. So I know it's confusing to people figuring out it because it used to be just 65. So we've been programmed our entire life that 65 is going to be when we retire and go into Medicare and take our Social Security and all that kind of stuff. But it has changed in the recent past and just makes it that much more complicated for people to figure out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny when you bring that up because people kind of think of both of these as rolled together, Social Security and Medicare. And Medicare, as you know, is an age 65 thing unless you have disability. But then Social Security is a completely different thing. And they have all these different numbers, age 62, age 65, 66 and 67, age 70. And then things get even more complicated when we start talking about other factors that even go beyond Social Security at these different milestone ages. So there's a lot to kind of keep straight that can get pretty confusing if you don't go straight to the source of the information, which we're going to do today by just going straight to Social Security's website. And we're going to show some shots from that as we narrow in on this one topic of Social Security and when your full retirement age is.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. Well, let me see if I can pop this screen up here. Keith, can you see my screen here?
I can see your screen.
Okay. So so let's jump into Social Security. Full retirement age is where we're going to focus at today. And one thing I always like to say as we go through this, standard disclosures, what we're going to go over today, me and Keith, this is just general information. None of this is specific advice to any individual. If you need additional help with something, reach out to a professional and ask for their advice on this kind of stuff as well. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. But the first, the place to start right here is this is literally a chart that is taken straight from Social Security's website. So this is as close as you can get to coming from the horse's mouth as it is right here. And just to there's a lot of data on here, but as you're watching this, the easiest way to look at this chart is to just, first of all, just what year were you born in? And so that's the far left column here that you can see my cursor going over it. What year you were born in. So if you were born between 1943 and 1955, well, you've already hit your full retirement age, which was age 66. But a lot of people now that are coming on board to Social Security at a later age, or a later birth year, I should say, starting in 1955, they are progressively increasing what the full retirement age is. And I'll explain why that's so important. But for just right now, we can look and pick out your year of birth. If it's 1957, then your Social Security full retirement age is age 66 and 6 months. That's the most important thing if that's the year you were born in. If you're born in 1960 and later, once you hit age 67, you'll be at your full retirement age. And so they started this transition over these years here from 55 to 60 to up that age from 66 to 67. Okay, that's the first place to start. Now, why is that important? Because based on what year you were born in and what your full retirement age, that's going to not only impact, yes, when you can get your full benefit, but it's also going to impact how much of a reduction in your benefit you would have applied to your Social Security if you draw it at an earlier age. So if we move on to this column right here, if you can see my cursor, this is the months between age 62 and age 62 is the earliest age under normal circumstances that you can draw Social Security. And the months between age 62 and full retirement age, you'll notice that the people born before 1954, there's only a 48-month or a 4-year difference between age 62 to age 66. And as they up that age for your full retirement age, the number of months gets bigger between age 62 to your full retirement age. Ultimately, if you go from 62 to a full retirement age of 67, that's 5 years or 60 months. Now, there's a reason why that's important, and it's because they reduce your benefits based on what your full retirement age is, and then discount that back if you draw before that. So if you only had 48 months difference between age 62 to 66, your full retirement age, then your reduction would be 25%. And we can see that right where I'm hovering my cursor over right there. So that $1,000 benefit that somebody would have gotten at their full retirement age of 66, if they draw it early, they're going to take a 25% reduction. Whereas let's compare that to somebody whose full retirement age is 67. They will take a 30% reduction if they draw theirs at age 62. So that's why it's so important on that. I don't know, Keith, did you have anything some thoughts that you had about that? Or
yeah, it's a shame that they make it that complicated. So you don't, coming in trying to figure out, 66 and 6 months to my retirement age. But yeah, it's a big number. And, obviously there's no right answer to take it now or take it then or take it before. You'll find an opinion from just about anybody on whether you should take it early or whether you shouldn't take it early, and probably depends a lot on your current situation, on whether you actually need the money. And what I think a lot of people don't understand is that when you're talking about taking it early, it depends on if you're still making income. Because if you're making income, then you're going to be penalized for taking your Social Security early. And it's not going to make a lot of sense to even consider it, because you'll lose a lot of your Social Security because you already are making income. So it's really at the time of retirement, whether you're retiring in your early 60s or whether you're going to your normal full retirement age or later than that, I would think.
Yes, that's a really good point, actually. I mean, that's so kind of what this is that we're looking at here is kind of just the knowledge. This is just the raw information. But what you're hinting at here, when you're talking about this, Keith, is that how do you apply this? Like, how do we use wisdom to apply this knowledge? Because there are a lot of factors that go into this on when you should draw Social Security. Keith, of course, you mentioned one of the most important ones. Are you still working? Because if you're still working and you start drawing Social Security, there are actually certain thresholds of income. If you make over a certain amount of income, then they start withholding some of that benefit until you get to your full retirement age. And once you get to the full retirement age, they don't withhold that anymore. But that's really just one factor to consider when you're figuring out when you're going to draw Social Security. But yeah, there's a couple of things of factors that go into this. Like for that income, for example, I had some notes here that I was looking at. If your earnings pass like below your full retirement age and you're working and you wanted to draw Social Security, if your earnings exceed in this, as time of us filming right now, $18,960. If that's the case, every dollar above that you earn, they're gonna, every $2 over that, they're gonna withhold $1 of your Social Security benefit. So you're really not even getting a benefit. You're not getting as much of your benefit there as all. And sure, you might be able to make that up on the back end once you hit your full retirement age, because there's a whole complicated mechanism of what they're doing behind the scenes when they withhold that. But still, it's just something to keep in mind. I mean, other factors that you have to think about, or what's your health like, right? You have to think about, am I in good health? Or another one that's really important. Do you have in your family hereditary? Is there longevity in your family? So you have to think about those type of issues when you're determining when to draw Social Security. I mean, all things being equal, if your health is not good, you typically are going to benefit better from drawing earlier, so you can get the money while you still can. All things being equal, if you have longevity in your family and you come from a long-lived stock of people, then you're going to probably, and all things being equal, do better if you delay and make your benefit bigger, because you're going to beat the actuaries on this, because you're going to exceed average life expectancy under those circumstances. So these are some of the factors that go into it. I'll tell you, Keith, one of the big ones that that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to claiming Social Security is, if you're married, are you the spouse that has the higher Social Security benefit, right? So the reason that one's so big, and a lot of times people don't think about that, is because if you think of like what an average person's life expectancy is, there's a certain, date, there's an average, you got that. But now if we change that up a little and we think of two people's average life expectancy, all right? So now you have a husband and a wife, and now on average, at least one of those is going to be alive for a longer period of time than if we just look at any one individual. Now, here's why that's important, because if you're married and you have the bigger Social Security benefit coming to you, if you delay that benefit and boost up your benefit to make it as big as you can, that benefit's not going to last just the rest of your life. It's going to last also the rest of your spouse's life, because whenever a spouse passes away, whichever one of them had the bigger Social Security benefit, that's the benefit that remains, and the lower one goes away. So the higher benefit spouse actually can benefit their surviving spouse by delaying and making their benefit bigger too.
So it sounds like that it might, in some cases, make sense for one to take it earlier than the other one.
Yeah, it's completely different. I mean, there's just lots of different strategies on how to do this, and the big rule of thumb in that example is that the spouse with the bigger benefit, it benefits the couple better if they delay, because their benefit's not just going to last their lifetime, it's going to last both of their lifetimes. But yeah, there's lots of different things, even going beyond both spouses being alive, and how to claim benefits like that. There's so many benefits structures within Social Security. I mean, I've read stories. I was just reading one recently of a lady who she was a widow, and she was going to wait until she turned 70 to draw her Social Security benefit. So she goes down to the Social Security Administration office in her town. She's like 69 years old and 11 months. Something, like right on the cusp of turning 70. So she goes in and says, "Hey, I'd like to turn on my benefit at age 70 next month." And Social Security says, "Well, hey, would you like to, in the meantime, for that 1 month, would you like to go ahead and get your surviving spouse benefit as well?" And she's like, "I didn't know anything about that." So she missed out by since she was a widow, her husband had died 15 years ago. She missed out on, at a minimum, from her full retirement age of 66 up until 70, that would have been 4 years that she could have claimed that surviving spouse benefit.
Wow.
And then let her own benefit delay until 70 and turn it on. I mean, so you're talking about, when you add up years like that, like 4 years, I mean, that's like probably over $100,000 left on the table that she wasn't even aware of.
I mean, you would think they would notify her or somehow, kind of like life insurance, when somebody dies, they can't just keep the money. They got to find whoever the next of kin is. But something like that, you would think Social Security, but then again, you probably wouldn't think Social Security is going to go out of their way. But yeah, that's a shame if you don't know. It's the same thing with Medicare. It just, you got to get ahead of the game and know what your situation is, and certainly get somebody to help, especially when there's no cost to get somebody to help. It makes a lot of sense to understand exactly, because it's a big deal for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. I mean, just think about, like, even in your own practice. I mean, how many people have you seen who they were working for an employer, they had group health insurance, they turned 65, and just because they don't have anybody to talk to that's an expert on Medicare, they go ahead and activate their Part B. They're paying that premium for years. They may not retire until age 66, 67, 68, and they've been paying a Part B premium for nothing because they're on their group plan. And then when they get off of it, they may not have access to having that 6-month window when you can get any supplement that you want. And they have to just fall back on which supplements give me the guaranteed issue based on losing a group coverage. So, I mean, same thing applies with Social Security. So, it's just something where additional help, is often advisable.
Yep, I agree 100%, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as we look at this chart, before we go to the next page, you can see how that reduction in benefits happens, how it's different based on when your full retirement age is. And then one thing else on this chart that's really interesting to note is how a spouse's benefit can also be reduced from early withdrawal as well. So that's, again, one of those factors that we have to keep in mind. For somebody on this first row right here, their spouse's benefits, if they drew at age 62 claiming their spouse benefit, how many of you guys have heard the phrase that, hey, I can draw 50% off of my spouse's benefit? Well, you can if you wait until your full retirement age. But if you draw it earlier, you actually get a bigger reduction. This is like if a spouse drew a spouse benefit at 62, you're talking about a 30% reduction for people with a full retirement age of 66. But if you locate your year of birth on here, and then you can travel over and see, well, how much would my spouse or how much would I have a reduction in benefit if I drew off on a spousal benefit? So that's just another thing to keep in mind, that you gotta be aware of this kind of stuff because this is kind of like, it's almost like a decision that can't be undone. So you don't really want to mess this up when you're retiring. So going on to the next page, so this is really important to keep in mind. For every year that you delay your Social Security benefit beyond your full retirement age, for every year beyond that you delay up until age 70, they will actually increase your benefit by 8% every year. So if your full retirement age is 67 and you want to delay it up until age 70, then you're going to get 8% of an increase every year on an annual basis. On a monthly basis, it's 2/3 of 1%. That equals 8% annually. It's the same thing. So again, this is one of those things where you got to weigh it in the balance and see, is it worth waiting? And that's where we get back to those factors mentioned earlier. What's my genetic longevity in my family look like? What's my health look like? Do I anticipate living a really long, beating the norms of the average? And does it make sense to get these additional 8% credits added to my Social Security benefit?
Great. Mm-hmm. It's all good to know for sure. And again, to be ahead of the game so that you don't make the wrong choices for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. So, did you have anything else, Keith, you wanted to add on this?
I think we've about covered it. So you can probably take your screen off the share and that'll take care of our full retirement age. And,
Sure.
Obviously, this stuff doesn't stop here. If you have questions, certainly visit retirementplanningmadeeasy.com, and I'll have the link below the video. And I'm sure Chris is happy to help with any questions regarding any of the stuff around what to do with your Social Security and how to create retirement income.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. I appreciate the plug. Yeah, I mean, if going to that website, you can download some. We have a really good PDF for people. It offers some good templates on how they can incorporate their Social Security into an overall retirement income plan. We call it the Essential Step-by-Step Retirement Guide, and it lays it out real easy. It gives you a template you can follow. It shows you an example of how a fictitious couple that we put in there, how they incorporated Social Security and how they put it in as one piece of the income puzzle. And so it's really helpful to people that are getting close to that retirement age and are wondering, okay, I know Social Security is a decision I have to make, but I have to look
Absolutely.
at everything else. And do I have enough income coming in from guaranteed sources from my 401k that's going to be able to cover what I need to cover in retirement?
Yep. Sounds good. And obviously, Medicare questions, I'm here to help with any of that. And you can visit MedicareOnVideo.com. And, I obviously have multiple videos on Medicare. So we make sure we just get all your pieces in the right places. So, Chris, I appreciate your time. I hope everybody found this helpful and have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Keith.